Now live. Yeah. So where's our moderator?
I guess our moderator be here along in a few minutes.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Kim said something. Was Kim? That's no. Kim, get off that page. Kim's over writing a comment on one of my posts.
I know the ADD has set in today.
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Let me see. There you are.
Hola, ¿cómo está usted?
Hey there. I
Hey.
just making a comment on my page. I said, Kim, get off my page. Time for group.
How'd you know it was on your page? How'd you know it was on your page?
The little notifications that come at the top.
Oh, I was counting my Southern meals.
Oh, how many? What are you?
23.
Oh, that's a lot. I had 12.
12.
That put me at I think born and bred, BREAD. So I was telling one of my friends there, I said, well, I've lived all over the country except the South, but my daddy was from Alabama. And she said, oh, you were fathered in.
Oh, man, I think I was fathered in too. Because the South and the chitlins and all that stuff, they love that.
The squirrel, I ain't had none of that.
I ain't never gonna have no squirrel.
My parents would eat chitlins sometimes. I couldn't do it. I did try to eat chitlins, but I didn't like them. And I never became a chitlin girl. Mm-mm.
I think chitlins is like a New Year's thing, right? It's like a thing you eat once a year.
Yeah.
No, they eat down there all the time.
They do?
Yeah, down south, everything, they eat everything all the time. Up here, it's probably a delicacy for those that may have Southern grandparents. They cook it on a holiday,
My parents.
But down south, they eat all of that pig, no matter what part it is, all that cow, no matter what part it is.
My parents did it during New Year's, Kim, but my mother was from the Midwest. She didn't know nothing about all that like that. She like,
hey, Leonie, how are you?
I'm doing well. Hello, I'm doing well.
Hello.
Thank you.
Well, we lost last week. We stayed late. We stayed late.
I know I joined you after, but you didn't see me.
But I didn't see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah. Well, we are four of us here, but our moderator's not here.
Yeah, moderator's not here yet.
Kimberly. Kim, where are you from?
Yes.
Where are you from originally?
Baltimore.
Oh, okay, that's the South.
I came to New York. I think I was 1 or 2, probably 2.
Okay, I like Maryland. The food is good, very good Maryland.
Yeah.
I posted something today. It's a CBS poll or something, looking at the murder rate in some of the major cities across the country, and it was a little bit surprising to me. New York was fairly low. St. Louis came in as number 1.
St. Louis is a rough crowd. Yep.
Detroit was not even in the top 3. And Maryland, where Baltimore is, and Prince George's County came in really high. I was like, what?
Yeah.
don't know what they got going on down there in Maryland.
I didn't do it. I was here. I was here. I didn't do it. I was here.
Yeah, I have a
Why were you
brother.
surprised about? Why were you surprised about Prince George's County? Were you surprised about that?
Yeah, well, Martin lives in Prince George County, and it's kind of, at least parts of it are kind of the more exclusive areas of Maryland. But I don't know now. I haven't been there in quite a while. But
I think what's happening, which is what's happening throughout our country, is now they're connecting the suburbs to the city. People aren't going to the city a lot anymore. As my town has changed from a small town, it's really now a small city. A very small city, because now they're connecting with sidewalks, with mass transportation. So of course, when you start to connect the cities with the quiet little so-called middle class suburban towns,
yeah,
things change. There was not a
yeah,
lot of crime before. There may be some crime now. That's what's happening. That's
yeah,
all the reason why the crime rates are going up in the so-called exclusive parts of the fake suburbs, because of now
yeah,
they're connecting them. Yes,
yeah,
they're definitely
yeah.
connecting them. Yeah, the
The
population of the
fake
town has
suburb.
almost tripled. Huh?
What's a fake suburb? I missed some stuff.
Oh, that's the one
Yeah.
I live in.
Oh, Venita. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about a poll, a CBS News poll that looked at the murder rate in major cities across the country,
Uh-huh.
um, using statistics from 2017. And St. Louis came in number one. New York was pretty low, like maybe number 10 or something. It was like 64 cities. And New
Mm-hmm.
York was like number close to like 54, close to the end. St. Louis
Oh,
for one. And a couple of the Maryland counties were really high. And one of them was Prince George's, which, at one point was one of the more expensive, exclusive areas in
yeah.
Maryland. But they were up there near the top of the the murder rate.
Wow.
That's why Venita started talking about fake suburb.
Okay. Now I understand. Wow. Well, St. Louis has always been a deadly city, so I'm not
That's not
surprised they
fair.
still
St.
won.
Louis always been a rough crowd.
Yes.
Missouri, are you kidding me? St. Louis, they always been a rough crowd. 40
Newark
years
was
ago, they
pretty
were a rough
high.
crowd.
Yeah, I can
Newark,
believe that one too.
yeah, that was not surprising about Newark. I was
But you
most
can't really
surprised
go
that
by
New York was so low.
you can't
Yeah.
go by statistics of they're skewed, because I know from living in the suburbs when they were small, there was crime that was going on, but they kept that stuff low. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They just kept it under wraps, so you really can't go all by statistics, because I know there was crime and they kind of kept it under wraps. But then there was different kind of crime. It wasn't a lot of petty crime in the suburbs. It was just like you kill your whole family type of crime.
They ain't playing.
I
They
mean,
just go
right,
all
right.
100%.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So it seems like it's less crime, but the crime was more gruesome. It wasn't like the little petty breaking your house. They put all that as crime together, not just
Yeah.
Yeah.
murders. It's like all the crime, domestic violence. Of course, if it's more densely populated, you're going to have more of everything because there's more people. But
Hmm.
in the suburbs, they had their crime, but theirs was just resolute. It was just killing a lot of people. You're done. Finish.
Yeah. And the dog. Don't forget the
No,
dog.
I'm
Killing
serious.
the dog.
Well, let's go on and get started now that Georgette is here. Happy to see you, Georgette. I'm gonna turn off my Facebook now.
Okay.
So this is not the night we're expecting Nicole. Nicole said she may be able to
No.
join us, I think, on October 8th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. We miss
Yeah.
Nicole. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Who did I lose? Kim? Kim, are you still there? Why can't I see her?
Okay. I see you.
All right.
Uh-huh.
I see her.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Okay.
static coming from your way, Michelle. It's echoing.
Okay. Georgette, you gonna get us
Okay.
started?
Okay. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Global Black Feminist Circle, Reading Circle. And we are on chapters 20, 21, and 22 of the Book of NightWomen by Marlon James. And so I'd like to go around our chat area and have everyone introduce themselves. And so let us start with Leonie.
Hello, everybody. I'm Leonie, and I'm joining you from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I have my book.
It's okay. Thank you, Leonie.
I was trying to move the
And
camera. What's going on? That's Leonie. Put your book back up,
yeah,
Leonie.
there we go.
There's a
All right.
there's a delay when I go into the solo layout.
I
There's
see.
like 5 second delay or something.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hey, it's the technical gremlins. It's all right. We'll keep it
Yeah.
moving. Okay. And if I can have Venita introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Venita Walker, and I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut. Welcome, and this is my book.
All right. Thank you, Venita. A-
Hmm.
And Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim, and I'm in New York, and I was looking at the audio version of the book, so I'm not going to show it.
Okay. Hey, that's all right.
Let's go up
Kim, you're a
and
little.
run and get the book. I'll get it.
You gonna run and get the book if you want to. Okay.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. And Michelle.
Hello, everybody, and I do have the book. I'm Michelle Odom. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and happy to be here.
All right. Thank you. And so tonight I'm your facilitator, Georgette Moses, coming from Columbia, South Carolina, and I have the book in all kind of formats. Just not a physical one to show you right now. But let's hop in to uh, tonight's uh, information. And I'll start off by reading my very short summary, which is bad feeling is a country no woman want to visit. So they take good feeling any which way it comes.
Hmm.
I think that pretty much
Mm.
says it all about these new chapters, don't you think? You agree?
Yes.
Okay, so if I
Yes.
if I can have a volunteer to read chapter 20 summary and the 4 questions, and then we're just kind of, like we're going free for all sort of tonight.
I'm happy to.
All right, thank you.
Okay, chapter 20. The twists, turns, and shocking revelations continue in this chapter as we see Miss Isabel taking mysterious midnight rides in disguise, piquing Lilith's curiosity. Humphrey and Isabel's roles seem to reverse as his weaknesses fail to meet her needs. Lilith's guilt torments her day and night, and she imagines Quinn can see everything in her face. She considers suicide, but settles on serving penance by helping Isabel hide her secret excursions. Her reward is to become the personal house slave of Robert Quinn. Question 1. What do you think Isabel is doing on her midnight rides? 2. Were you surprised that Lilith decides to help Isabel? Is it more than just guilt? 3. What do you think Homer's smile come too late and gone too early? Why do you think Homer's smile come too late and gone too early when she tells Lilith she'll be moving in with Quinn? 4. Do you think Quinn has a genuine affection for Lilith? Is it realistic?
Okay. Thank you, Leonie. Okay, ladies. Have at it. I see a lot of smiling going on in the room.
Well, I know what Isabel is doing, so I don't want to answer that one.
Okay.
Um, but what I guess I do want to say about that one um, is she very clearly told Humphrey what it is she wanted him to do. And he calls himself not taking advantage of her grief, which, I guess is chivalrous and all that. Um, but what he's also not doing is allowing her to speak for herself, is hearing what she really said. And so she was very clear about what she wants. And he's very clear that he's not going to give it to her. So I just think Isabel is out looking to get her needs met any way she can.
Well, that was a very PC version. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Michelle, you should make children's books.
I had to restrain myself.
I'm so sure.
I love it. I love
Uh,
Kim, were you going to answer a question or
it.
make a comment?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it has something to do with running, but it's about to do it at night. I love when they said running. That's just like my favorite thing. Um, I was surprised that Isabel allowed Lilith to help her. I mean, at one point she said she wants to cut you up in pieces, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Okay, you can wash my boobs." um, yeah, I was surprised. I'm surprised by that little agreement. What's going on with them, and I don't know what's behind Homer's smile. But do you think Quinn has genuine affection for Lilith? Is it realistic? I think the second things get better for him, he's out of there. I think she is the temporary fill-in wife that just warms his bed, and he's willing to do whatever or think whatever for now. But I just think that, you know, the second things get better for him, he will not take Lilith alone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your observations. Anybody else? Any other takers? Leonie, you over there thinking,
Yeah. It's yeah, I think it seems like it's an introduction to like a kind of sorry, for me, this chapter was very revealing of the pretense of a place and of the whole system around slavery with people of in Jamaica. So I think that like everybody has their roles that they're playing, and um, you know, I don't think Quinn's playing house. He doesn't have an interest. There would be no genuine interest in Lilith because he wouldn't know how to have genuine interest in her. So I just am. There's just so much on the surface uh, of a place like the Jamaica of this time that um, we you start to see how people are just kind of like pawns in this game that is there to hold up and to actually secure a kind of like capitalism that exists to this day. So I don't think the relationships are genuine because I don't think that the people are genuine because I don't think that they're in a system that is about recognizing any of their humanity. That's it.
Wow. That was
I
deep. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
I would say though, for me, and see y'all y'all gonna force me to talk nasty. Book
We're
in
not
order,
forcing you.
in order to make my point. Oh, and I was doing so good, Georgette.
We'll use rutting. If that's an acceptable term.
Here's the thing. I think that Quinn genuinely enjoys getting his cock sucked. And I think that Lilith genuinely enjoys his big cock. Now, do I think it's real love and, one day he's going to marry her and all of that? No. But I do think that there is some connection brewing between them that is important for the good or the bad of it. And so part of my answer to what do you think Homer's smile is about, come too late and leave too early, when she's delivering the news that Lilith is going to live with Quinn, is the double-edged sword that scenario presents. So, yes, on the one hand, it gives her some advantage of being able to be in a position where she can manipulate him in some ways. But there is also this risk that she will develop genuine feelings for him or vice versa, and and how that will impact what they're planning to do. So mine is more of a yes and no kind of answer.
Okay. And that was relatively clean.
Thank you.
Okay, Venita, I know you got something, girl. Come on, bring it.
No, I'm just, Lilith is too much. I guess, I just will agree with the girls that she is what she is to him right now. Remember, he's an Irishman that feels like he's at the bottom of the barrel and he has someone else to communicate with that's at the bottom of the barrel. But I'm quite sure that his whole attitude would be a lot different if he didn't feel kind of outcastish himself.
Yeah.
He'd be probably around there whipping her like everybody else. So I just think that that's the common link between them, but no more.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No more. No.
Yeah, I don't think enjoying sex is anywhere near genuine affection. I mean, it's sex. We're built to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's it.
It's
That's
true.
it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, if he didn't feel as though he was beneath the other white men because he's Irish,
Right.
then there would be no connection. He'd just be running around there calling her a bitch and get over there and do something crazy to you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you, Venita.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great
And
observation.
I think
Mhm.
also there's a certain freedom that he sexually with her, that all the stuff that goes on there about the propriety and decorum and manners and restraints and all of that. Um, Whether it's Miss Isabel um, chastising Humphrey for not having on the proper jacket, or Humphrey worried that now that he's gone wild beast in front of all of his party guests, that he's going to lose some of his social standing. There's all this concern, and so there's this piece in the chapter. It's like respectability. So there's this piece in that chapter, in the first part, where he's saying no. There's this thing about women are better at knowing when no means yes, and men have a harder time figuring out when a woman is saying no, if it really means yes. Because he's not supposed to be engaging in oral sex, um, any more than it's not proper. you know. And so, but with this Black woman, he can be free to do things that, he couldn't do in polite society.
Yes. Absolutely. Hmm. Which all goes back to what Leonie was saying about pretense and role playing. It's unnatural. Mm.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, because Isabella's an undercover hoe. She didn't get into a hoe's ways overnight. You know what I'm
Something
saying?
happened.
She,
You're right.
yeah, she too good at it. Okay, she's very comfortable with this. Like anything else, when you see that element of comfort, she been a hoe all her life. No, Isabel, this is not because you're grieving and you're overwhelmed and oh my Lord Jesus. No, girl. Mm-mm.
Yes, yes, that's true. You know, all that the grief, or maybe she's pretending to be grieving, because doesn't she say something to Humphrey to the effect of, if I'd kill my family all over again, if I could have some
Yeah,
pleasure? I'm like, whoa,
right.
Yes,
I
who
mean,
is
she
this?
she what
Who
she
is
grieved
this
about?
woman?
Okay,
yes,
Like,
she's not. I
okay,
guess it's different kind of grieving, but I guess people grieve in different ways. But hers is very different than anything I've
yeah,
ever heard.
yeah, yeah. And Humphrey just ain't up to the task, man. You need
which,
Humphrey scared her. She crazy as hell. Humphrey like, oh no, thank you.
yeah,
Once in
but
a while you'll find a man to say no, thank you. And Humphrey, he said, keep it, girl. That's
yeah,
which
okay.
that's kind of
is
good.
surprising. It's surprising because Humphrey's a relatively young man, like early 20s,
Yeah,
and they were
yeah.
having sex before the murder scene.
Yeah.
Remember when
Mm-hmm.
Homer went to Coolabray to fix
Mm-hmm.
this Mistress Roger some special tea,
Yeah.
and she was telling Lilith then, that Homer, that Humphrey and Isabel were getting it on. So why, after the murder, he's got this hands-off policy was strange to me.
Well, I didn't find that strange. First of all, he already done been there and did that. And even though she might have a conscience, maybe he does. He feel like she is grieving. He don't want to take advantage of her while she's grieving. He could do it any other time, but it just may not be the time. I think it's his common courtesy. I don't really believe there's anything behind it. It's just that he's just having a little common courtesy. Plus, she's drunk all the time. Who want to be with a drunk? She falling down drunk all the time. You feel like you're taking advantage of the woman. She's not even, in control of herself. So he probably just, figure it might be safe for him to say, keep her over there for a minute till she get herself together.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not particularly attractive at this point. I mean, smelling like liquor, flask is pulling out. I don't know when she take a bath. I mean, Humphrey ain't trying to do all that. That's what I think. I'm sorry. Let's get to more scholarly. Yes, because she's grieving, Humphrey is being a gentleman, and he doesn't want to take advantage of a lady while she's grieving. Does that sound better?
Yes.
Sure, Venita. If you're fine with it, so are we. All right. So then let us move along. If everyone's made all the comments they would like to about chapter 20, we can move on to chapter 21. Can I get a volunteer to read that, please? And the questions. The two questions.
I'll read it.
Thank you.
White skin carry God power in the West Indies. However, their fear of the Negroes they have enslaved is expressed in some of the most merciless, vile actions to be perpetrated against another human being. Slave rebellions are mounted, but the cruelty and depraved violence prove too much for them to overcome. The sins of Jack Wilkins are revealed in gory detail in the recounting of the murder of Lilith's uncle and the rape of her mother. His one good deed, saving the baby Lilith, is soon overshadowed by his continued and inventive cruelties as Montpelier's overseer.
And will you read the two questions, please?
One, were you surprised that rebellions had taken place in the West Indies? And two, it was the relentless cruelty of men like Jack Wilkins that created the docile atmosphere for Humphrey and Quinn. Do these two men seem out of place in their roles? And what are the consequences?
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
I was not surprised that there were so many rebellions. They're as I think I said last week, it's intriguing that no single one of them was definitive, but taken together, that that history that Marlon James provides is really an 80-year period in the 1700s. All those rebellions that he lists. And, so taken to, and that's just Jamaica. So taken together is, decade after decade after decade, is really what finally provided the final blow, So I think that's important to always keep in mind in whatever kind of struggle it is, because we are always up against superior firepower and there's always the element of betrayal going on. One thing I looked up, Marlon James made a reference to the 1745 plot to kill all the whites. And I looked that up, and it was actually a plot where 900 enslaved people were involved. And there was a Black woman who was a wet nurse, and she wanted them to spare the baby. And when they said no, she betrayed the plot. So all these people were killed. And it just reminded me so much in our book of the story of Matreka, when Lilith was burning down Kula, and Matreka was like, no, not the baby, not the baby.
Right.
Lilith wasn't worried about all of that. But I mean, it just seems like no matter what decade we're in, what century we're in, what struggle we're in, there's always going to be somebody that is not really on board with the program. And so what do you do about that? How do you feel about that? Do you, refuse to struggle simply because the particular struggle, the particular battle that you're involved in is not going to be decisive? Or you just keep striking blows, century after century. So I was proud that the Jamaicans just kept it going, when nobody getting no sleep around here. The means of torture, were really grotesque. That derby dosing, I'm gonna be having nightmares about that one.
Yes. Yes. I had to look that one up. I'm like, is this real?
Yeah, I had to look that one up. I was like, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would question whether that's real or not. Reading all this books about slavery right here in this country, anything they do is real. If you can, what is that? The medical apartheid. If you can take a infant that's just a small infant child, Black child, and crack their skulls open while they're alive with no anesthesia and look at their brain work, then what else? That's would not be anything. Wouldn't shock me. I would believe, that they would do anything.
And so they proved to be
Yes,
capable of doing anything.
they're capable
I
of doing
do
anything. I
agree.
didn't even look at it twice because, it's like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's like a form of entertainment, as Michelle was speaking about the other night. It just seemed like a lot of the torture and cruelty was just a form of entertainment for them.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they had good reason to fear, you know. The numbers were certainly not in the favor of the white folks. So I wouldn't call it paranoia at, at that stage. And so that's why I guess they felt they had to go over and above and beyond the call of duty in instilling fear in the Black population. And so they did. That one scene though with Bacchus, Lilith's uncle, and I just wish that had gone another way, because Bacchus was busy taunting him with the cutlass. Oh, and he could have gone on and killed Jack and been done with it.
Yeah.
But he was having fun. He was just taunting him.
And what's his name? Cronus wasn't any better because he had. Why are you trying to choke this guy? You know he's got a gun on his chest. You should be grabbing the gun and shooting him.
Yes.
This is no time to savor your sweet revenge. Just get it done. Just get it done. And they paid the price.
Right.
That scene made no sense to me. That's one that made no sense to me. That particular passage, absolutely none. It's like that I found unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
That you would have him by yourself, the two of you, and you playing games. That was kind of like really weird.
And all the Negroes were standing around watching, and Jack was saying, "Come on, I'll give you some extra food."
Yes.
You come
and that's the killer. And that's the killer. Because, it's just when he said this extra food, there's some extra food.
Well,
it's just like that's how little.
So hungry.
Yeah, they were hungry, but that's just how little they're thought of. You can just lure them into not killing you with some extra food. Whereas if you did, and they take over that plantation, be plenty of food. So that's the power of conditioning. That's the power of striking fear in folks, I guess. Because other than that, I can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been conditioned so much. It's like, that was weird to me. Very strange.
Yes. Yeah, and I could certainly see that as a film, a clip, a scene in a movie, but going a different way because you got two guys, and you have the drop on the guy. You already know all about him because you were able to escape, so you should have planned ahead. Okay, for that.
Right.
But hey, and then the rest of the scenes where, and you know how vicious Jack Wilkins was. It wasn't enough for him to just chop off Bacchus's head, stick it on a stake, until it rots.
Yeah.
He goes after his young sister.
Yeah.
Just, I found this chapter entirely disturbing, which is why I only have two questions. So if you you guys want to make some other commentary on the chapter, and that's fine. That's fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a disturbing chapter. I would say on your second question, it was the relentless cruelty of men like Jack that created the docile atmosphere for Humphrey and Quinn. Do these men seem out of place in their roles? I Quinn is maybe a little bit out of place to me. Humphrey, I think is he's growing into his role as massa quite nicely. When Jack threw that threw his head on the dinner table in front of Mistress and Massa, that was Humphrey's father who vomited. And the mistress, the crazy one, who loved it, right? But Humphrey, as a Massa, I think has more of a stomach for this than his father did. Quinn, I think, is you know, it's pushing him beyond really his comfort zone. And you know, and what are the consequences? Well, you know, if Jack is right, you know, if Jack is right, then the consequences of not being harsh enough, is that there will be rebellion and white blood will spill. Right? But you know, I just think slavery was a risky endeavor, you know, for the white folks, you know, because whether they're too hard or whether they're too soft, you know, when you take people's freedom from them, you know, and think you can treat them any old kind of way, then you really can't sleep peacefully at night. You know, it doesn't really matter if you're like a kind massa or an unkind massa. You are at risk.
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Would anybody else like to comment on this chapter?
I can comment on it. For me, this chapter, the contents of this chapter, the way that it looks at the brutality that was specific to the Caribbean was one of the things that it's one of the reasons why I love this book. Because for me, I was looking as I was starting to read more about, getting more curious, rather, about the place where my family is from. I started to understand, get glimpses that the story of enslavement had differences that were significant, especially growing up, seeing and reading about stories of enslavement in the United States. So for me, I appreciate the contents and just even the project that Marlon James is engaged in with this book of taking things that are real in history and presenting them through the story, through the story that he has developed. That I don't lose a sense of like being connected to the history of the place where my family is from by having it appear as part of a narrative. Um, Rather than just like the pure academic stuff, which I also have access to. And so I think it's really important I think about how I see a lot of echoes in kind of the behavior of when so-called white folks are in the majority, that there is no bottom to the brutality that will come. And I see a lot of echoes in what's happening today, in which the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Most of the impacts are with the global majority, who are mostly people of color, and that there is no bottom. There's no, if we need to burn down the Amazon, we're going to burn down the Amazon. If we need to do whatever, we're going to do whatever. That there's no bottom for supporting the kind of like capitalism and in support of white supremacy that we're seeing in the world today.
That is true. So, Leonie, let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Knowing what you know now about the history of the brutality of where your ancestors are from,
Mhm.
how do you think, or how have you observed their behavior, and how do you think that history affects them and how they deal in their lives or have dealt with different situations in their lives?
That's such a great question. I think that the thing that comes up for me is that it helps to fill in some of the gaps in my understanding of the systemic. So, what does it mean for people um, to be products of a system in which there is extraordinary violence? For me, it helped me to understand, while Jamaica continues to be such a violent place, and it helps me to understand some of the norms that I associate with the culture that I come from. Um, Jamaica is a place, as I've mentioned before in different conversations, is a place that its entire history is this. Jamaica exists for the kinds of things that we see in this book. It has no other history than that, other than being a place for enslavement. And so it helps to, as I said, fill in some of those gaps around the systemic and help me to understand, um, yeah, how much of the culture that I come from is actually the fruit of white supremacist racist thinking. Um, the only difference is that that thinking is embodied and comes out of the mouths of people with darker skin, and that's the way that it was meant to be.
Wow. Thank you.
Thanks for
That
the
is
question.
so powerful. Wow. Kim, Venita, would you guys like to add anything?
No, I'm good.
No more said.
Okay. All right. Well, then let us move on to chapter 22 and the summary. And I have four questions. So, who hasn't read that would like to read?
I can read it if you
All
like.
right. All right. Thank you, Venita.
Chapter 22. Lilith settles into her duties under Quinn's roof, and soon in his bed. Lilith's Il Nana is a major weapon in Homer and the NightWoman's plans. Quinn is sprung. Lilith is amused and confused. The drunken Miss Isabel has a serious case of the female blue balls, and Humphrey continues to let his wussy flag fly. Oh, okay. Where was that? but the but the
Wussy.
time is I'm sorry. Okay. But the time is coming to judge the quick and the dead. Number one, Homer drops more knowledge on Lilith. What connections can be made in the story so far, and could they influence what happens next? A. No black woman safe as long as white man alive. B. Hate and love be closer cousin than like and dislike. C. He going hate you for taking the power, but he going to love you too, because giving up power never sweet a man's up. Number two, Miss Isabel is clearly self-destructing. Why might this be important, and to whom? Number 3, Lilith meets with NightWomen in the cave and is welcomed after fashion with some respect. Gorgon almost scrapes her back off trying not to touch her, but Callisto looks her up and down with one eye. She is a Bakra killer now. Why do you think the women's reaction to Lilith are so different? Number 4, what do you think of Lilith's identifying similarities between, I can never pronounce her name. Could you pronounce that,
I
please?
think it's Hippolyta
Hippolyta,
or
tall,
Hippolyta. I'm not
skinny,
sure.
or Hippolyta?
Hmm.
Where's Michelle?
Yeah, either one. Either one.
Okay.
Okay.
Hippolyta, tall, skinny, black dress and black bonnet, and her NightWoman apparition. Oh, it's a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Venita. All right,
It's a
ladies,
lot.
pick whichever one you want to talk about. Hmm.
Oh,
Are we waiting for?
Oh, anyone who would like to make a comment on the question, or if you have something else you'd like to talk about from this chapter, is perfectly fine.
I guess for me, I'm very curious about Miss Isabel and her night rides. Um, I think she's getting something, some need met. But the fact that she's coming home with so much, coming back with so much mud and so much soil, I don't know. I don't know what she's found in the woods at night or wherever she's running to. But at one point, she was talking about appearing to be a proper lady. It seems like that's all gone now. Like whatever she's getting at night is distracting her. And I don't know if it's driving her mad that she would come back into um, Humphrey's house and every shut eye sleep with this mud and this whole thing every night. So I think she is self-destructing. Who could benefit from it? I think definitely the people who are enslaved. I wonder if Lilith at some point could benefit from it because she's the main person that's accusing Lilith of murder. I don't know. I just can't wait to get more information in terms of what Miss Isabel is doing at night.
Hmm. Thank you.
Kim,
Good.
I kind of thought about all the dirt and mud she had on her too. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if she's just going out to have a good time, to find a man and do what she do, why is she dirty? And I start thinking to myself, and I'm probably wrong, because remember Isabel, she always talking about she got a little Creole going on.
Hmm. Yes.
I wonder if she not laying up with one of them slaves down there in the back with all that dirt. Wherever she riding up. No, I'm not.
Aha.
I mean, it just crossed my mind. It's probably not to be the case because I haven't finished reading the book. But what crossed my mind, I'm like, well, why are you all dirty like that, girl? I mean, I mean, you know. And then I started thinking to myself, since she want to act like she out her mind, which I don't think she is at all. She laying with one of them slaves or something. Was she riding off at night? She certainly ain't the Marriott at the Marriott.
That's for sure.
Well, yeah, and you know, but I think some of the dirt is she is riding, you know.
Well, yeah, of course. If you're riding and you're riding through mud, whatever case may be, you know.
Yeah.
But she coming back and those clothes are really, really funked up, really bad. I mean, where is she riding to? She can't be riding but so far because she's making it back every morning or late at night or whenever she want to come in.
Yeah, but she's on
So where's she rolling
a
around
horse.
at? I mean, you can ride a horse. I've ridden horses many times, and you're gonna get mud splashed on you and everything like that. But I don't smell like I'm rolling around some barn when I get back.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering.
and liquor in her flask.
Yeah, she got liquor because she always drunk. But it's just the other part that I was wondering about. Why is she so? Why is the clothes so funky? I mean, not the horses, you know, smell that great, but still, I mean, like, I don't know about Isabel.
It is interesting. So, and what did you guys think about when Lilith smells the flask and she smells liquor, but she describes some other odor that's strange, which is also on the clothes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I was wondering. If she's doing her own little spells and stuff somewhere out at night, trying to get herself some sort of revenge. You know,
Could
using something.
Mm.
be.
And so at this
She's
point, Quinn knows what she's doing.
yeah, now.
Quinn follows her, so he knows at this point what she's doing, and he's not telling Lilith, but he demands that Lilith tell him everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's to me though, whatever is going on with her is a part of the every woman, you know, wants a good feeling storyline. And so whatever she's doing is her way of trying to get a good feeling. But also, did you all see the part about Lilith cutting her wrists? And you know, I don't know if it's a suicide attempt or a getting high attempt. But
Oh,
that
well, I
was in,
thought she was just imagining it because she was recalling what Homer had said about another house slave who had
right.
taken
But then
well.
on the next page, she's down in the cellar,
Mhm.
and she has blood on her hands, and she has to go up to the kitchen to wash the blood off. And that's another night when she sees Isabel on her way out in the middle of the night. So I thought maybe she was dreaming or something with the blood. But then when she saw Isabel, I said, oh, Lilith really cut herself.
That's
You know,
okay. I'm
that
gonna have to go
girl.
back and reread that because I totally thought that was all in her head. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, but
Hmm.
but anyway, I think point A, no black woman is safe as long as the white man is alive, um, is an important theme to keep in mind um, as we go through the rest of the book. Um, and I also think it was really a critical scene between Lilith and Homer, after the meeting of the night women, after all the night women had left, except Lilith and Homer. And, Lilith had a lot of pointed questions about, really what is going on here. What's the plan? I don't understand what you all are doing. I don't understand what's your goal, what's your purpose, what's your method. She really is not getting what all of this is about. And so Homer, you know, tried to explain it to her. But basically what she was saying was, look, the planning was done 3 years ago. I'm not going through all that detail with you at this point. It's done and you're in, and Lilith said very clearly that she don't want to be in. So I just want y'all to remember that as the book goes on, because Lilith did say she does not want to be in. And Homer did say, well, you in, she didn't say you're in regardless, but she said, if you tell anybody about this, the spirits are going to deal with you. And so, I just think that it brings up again, an area for learning, in that, there's always that potential for betrayal. And so how do you, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? And I was looking at something yesterday that was saying that was one of the things that made the Haitian Revolution successful, is that they anticipated that there was going to be betrayal and they dealt with that situation beforehand. So then, of course, I'm like, well, okay, so what did you do?
Yes.
I couldn't find a specific answer for that question, but it's a question, because there is going to be betrayal. And so what do you do with somebody that, is telling you, I'm not down for this?
Lilith may have to go.
She can't go yet.
I mean,
She got more work to do.
But she's so dangerous. She's just so dangerous. I think about what's the best for the most. And Lilith is just I like Lilith, but she's downright dangerous to everyone. Not just folks that she's taken out, but just to everyone in general, because she's too loose.
Yeah.
I mean, she's bold enough to say that to Homer, even if she felt that way, she's still very bold. I wouldn't have said that to Homer. I would not have said that to Homer. That was this, and that's what I'm saying. She's just like a little loose cannon. She's too loose. That was not. She should have said that.
And then when she got the message that there was a meeting and come to the cave, she was like, I ain't going, that ain't happening. And so when Homer snatched her up the next day, it was just like, the next time we let you know there's a meeting, you better be there. So I don't know how she was supposed to get away from Quinn to go to this meeting. I don't know if you can just leave somebody in bed who's holding on to you and then go to a meeting and not be followed.
Well, that's why Homer taught her how to suck his cock.
Go to sleep.
Cock is not a word that I use. I'm only using it because that's the word in the book.
Okay, Michelle.
That's what I say. That's what I say, Georgette.
We don't have cocks. Oh.
We got cocks in South Carolina. They call the game cocks. And every time somebody say, go cocks, I'm like, look at that. What? Say.
But that Homer taught Lilith or showed her or explained to her how to do that, basically so that he would go on to sleep so she could have some private time.
Yes.
It's not like they live in mansions. I'm sure it's a small little place. I don't know how she could sneak out and he not know she's gone. He must think really hard.
Michelle, if you answer one more question with the answer of suck cock,
I'm sorry, that's what was going on.
I know, but the woman does protest too much.
All I have to say is for a minute there, Marlon had slipped into the genre of triple X books. I'm like, oh, and she did what? And she did what? I'm like, okay, but even during all of these, the different sex scenes, you see Lilith battling herself. Should it feel good? No, I need to hate him. No, like,
Right.
so it was very complex and revealing, in her emotional and mental struggles about how she should be towards this man who had, helped perpetrate all that whipping and scarring on her back. So very interesting, the psychological uh drama and confusion. And in some ways, they're dependent on each other. And in some ways you see that relationship reflected in Isabel and Humphrey's relationship.
Uh-huh.
So only there wasn't a whipping that took place. It was well, maybe there was some whipping going on. We don't quite know because Isabel is quite the freak, but she liked that horse whip, y'all. No.
But there's also the I don't know, the dialectic or the what is it, opposite thing going on with those two pairings. On the one hand, Isabel is begging for it. The white woman is begging for it, right?
Yes.
And can't get it. And the black woman, she's not hating it, but she's got more than, she didn't ask for it, but she's got more than, more than enough.
Yes.
So there's some dynamic there.
Yes.
I think another thing that when you have that line about black woman isn't safe as long as a white man is alive, Lilith supposedly is safe in Quinn's house, and then here comes this bum, and he decides that he's going to do whatever he wants to do to Quinn's property.
Yeah,
that was something that I thought was amazing, that you could take liberties with anybody else's slave just because you happen to be there and you happen to be white, but that's still supposedly his property. And so for him to come in and see, her being attacked, that was just something that said, the system is bigger than whatever Quinn and Lilith is pretending and playing house.
Was that these chapters? That might be the next chapter.
No, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't read ahead.
It's okay.
I think you jumped the gun a little bit. Yeah.
It's okay.
No, but it's a good point. That is about to happen, and that's should be safe, in this dude's house. She's not. She's not safe anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say nothing else tonight. I'm just going to chill.
Kim. Oh,
Oh,
it's okay. And
good
well,
Lord.
so who thought that when Lilith looked at Hippolyta in the cave, that she might have been the actual person who was coming to Lilith by physically or maybe something else, some other kind of power, to influence Lilith's actions? Or do you think that was just kind of a red herring Marlon threw in there to keep us off, on our toes?
Yeah, yeah, the latter. Um, I think it's just a continuation um, of the fact that Lilith doesn't know what is going on. She doesn't know where this image, this spirit, this she doesn't know what it is that is happening to her. But something is putting these ideas in her head, you know. So I think that's just Lilith trying to figure out, in what is it?
Hmm. Well, let's take a leap into the fantastic and
Mhm.
suppose that with all of these skills, supernatural skills the women have, in their belief system, suppose they were able to send an apparition of Hippolyta to Lilith at Colibre in order to influence her to burn the place down as part of their grand scheme to kill all the white folks.
Ah, I never thought about that.
That's a good thought, Gio. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm really still trying to hold on to the supernatural aspect of this book because, the
Mhm.
realism in it that he interspersed is very jarring.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, oh my God, how are these people still standing?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you I know the answer, but did you all ever watch that movie? I posted it a couple of weeks ago in our private space. What is it? Goodbye, Uncle Tom, I think it is.
yeah.
What does that mean, Georgette? It's,
Sometimes the more you know, the more you feel you don't want to know.
yeah,
Okay. I'm like,
yeah,
what is wrong with people? What's wrong with them? And that genetic line is, that's part of everybody here in America and other areas where all of that was going on. Like, who unleashed you depraved people on the world to do
yeah,
these kinds of things and
yeah,
create more damaged uh, people who, don't know the depths of why they do what they do and
yeah,
how they interpret, external information, and they think it's natural and this is just how it's supposed to be. No, people did some stuff to you that's genetic.
right. Did you see why I was saying that movie is like a visual, that this book is like the written version of what that movie does visually?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah.
Mhm.
It is hard to read and to watch um, our history. And, I say all the time, white folks, they don't want to know our history, and we get upset about that, you know, because we want somebody to listen and know and feel guilty and feel sorry and, you know, and want to do something to make things right. But white folks are like, you know, I ain't trying to hear it. But, you know, for Black folks, for the most part, it seems, you know, we ain't trying to hear it either, because it is very painful to take in. And I think for the most part, we just want to forget. But I also think that there's a layer of shame that goes on with us, when we look at, you know, what some of our behavior has been. You know, I mean, I think you can feel if you're the courageous one, you know, if you're the one that plotted the rebellion, and, you know, if you're a Bakra killer, and, you know, if you're the one that stood up against the odds and all of that, if you're the one that started the mutiny, you know, on the slave ship, then, you know, then your self-esteem is intact, and you're feeling, you know, you're feeling pretty good. But that was not the majority of the people, you know. So if you're the one that kind of succumbed to the fear, if you were the one that betrayed the plans for the rebellions, you know, if you were the one that had to receive the derby dose, you know, all of that kind of stuff. If you were, as I described Benji last week, as a punk ass bitch, if that was you, you know, then you've got some shit, you know, weighing you down. And you know, and I think that is what is going on, to a large degree with Black people. We have to figure out how to forgive ourselves and how to forgive each other, and how to put some of this behavior that was very ugly into some kind of context that allows us to move forward with our heads held high. You know, it's hard work. It's hard work, but hiding from it is certainly not going to get the job done.
Well,
very true.
Were you going to say something, Venita?
no, I just was thinking about what you were saying. I have thoughts, but I'm not trying to share them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love what you said, Michelle. I think that you're absolutely right. We do have to find a way to hold our heads up high. It's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, so much of this is, it's shameful. You know, I mean, if you were the Johnny jumper, you know, if you were the Johnny jumper and you were the one having to, you know, physically work that lash on your sister, on your mother, on your family, on your people, you know, then what, you know, what does that do? What does that do? You know, we talked, we read the book, Post-Traumatic Grave Syndrome, you know. You know, we know that trauma carries forward generation to generation. And so what is it? What is all this stuff that we're carrying? And and I think it's a lot of shame. And I think both this book and that movie, Goodbye, Uncle Tom, give us very vivid portrayals of the stuff that we have to feel bad about. And all of it is understandable in the context. We understand that we were all just doing what we had to do to survive. But nevertheless, it was some ugly stuff, you know. So how do you live with that? How do your children's children live with that? And I'd say the same thing for the white folks. How do you live? As a descendant of people that engaged in the kind of behavior that the white folk were engaging in. They were just trying to survive too. You couldn't just jump up and be anti-slavery. And that's why I think he peppers all the propriety throughout the book, because white folks had to go along with the program too. And they didn't have any uncommon courage. In the later years, you start to get the abolitionists. But for the most part, they didn't have any uncommon courage that caused them to stand up and say, this is wrong. I will not participate in this. They went along with the program. So how do you live with that? And how do your children's children live with that?
Indeed.
Well, apparently, Donald Trump is living with it pretty damn well, because just last week he said he was the chosen one.
Oh, yes. That.
I have a hard stop in 3 minutes, women. So I'm gonna say, I just want to let you know that.
Okay. Thank you, Leonie. Well, ladies, if you haven't anything else to add, I thank you for participating wholeheartedly, as you always do, giving great insights and comments. These were some tough chapters to get through here. And yeah, we did it.
We did it.
Cocky notwithstanding. I throw that in there for you, Michelle. Will there be cocky in 23? I don't know.
All right.
Oh my
All
goodness.
right.
So next week it's Leonie. She'll be our facilitator. And well, until then, I
All right.
guess we'll be reading our story together.
All right. Thank you, Georgette.
Thank you, Leonie.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Georgette.
Georgette, so much
Hey.
for tonight.
Oh,
Kim,
it's a pleasure.
good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night,
Good night, Michelle.
ladies. Have a
Good night,
wonderful
Leonie.
week.
Thank
Okay.
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.